Did you stay up for that last night, guys? 10-7. I actually kind of liked it for much of the first half or I can watch old school football like that where it's cold. There's a lot of hitting going on. Defenses are both those defenses are very good. So you're like, okay, well, this isn't just bad offense. These two defenses are good. Now, it's not great offense. I don't think the Packers have a lot of weapons. And I will just say this. I think they're in trouble because at 5-3-1 now with back-to-back home losses, with a lot more in the way of toughness on the horizon, I thought yesterday was a day, Tom, like I know we didn't talk much NFL yesterday because we're caught up in whether or not they're going to fire Mike Norvell at some point here. Understandably so. That's the all-consuming topic du jour for as long as this farce continues on. But I thought it was an interesting day because you did have a bunch of NFL news. The Dolphins fired 2 more executives. They're 2 longest-standing executives. They've already fired Greer, and yet the head coach, who's doing drive-bys at restaurants after beating Buffalo in order to tease the Buffalo fans that frequent the area, he keeps his job, and he's bizarre, this fake drug dealer look. And then secondly, Daboll does get fired from the Giants, who I mentioned yesterday was just a few years ago Coach of the Year, took him to the playoffs and won a road playoff game. And now he's out of a job. And people were beginning to position themselves within the divisions. But I thought you could have asked the question out loud, will the Green Bay Packers, this was before last night's game, will the Green Bay Packers with a loss still make the playoffs when you look ahead at their schedules? And I thought going into the weekend, you could say, would the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they were to lose to the Los Angeles Chargers, riddled with injury, the Chargers, would they make the playoffs? 2 teams that at the time lead the division. And I'm wondering aloud whether or not they make the playoffs at all. And you go from being tied for the division lead in a 2 seed to a 7th seed like that. And you ask the question, will the tie help or hurt the Packers? So we shall see. Still has a chance. Right now, it's falling to the hurting side. It'll be fascinating to see how this all plays out. And obviously, we didn't talk much about the Bucs loss yesterday, but that's a team that figures to suffer another loss because the worst thing that could have happened did happen, which is that Buffalo went down to Miami late today and got blown out and will be probably extremely focused on their next matchup at home against Tampa Bay. That's not ideal. So a lot of things happening in the league.
Yeah, I would tend to believe that the Bucs are in a rough spot, which is why when we were watching some of these games on Sunday, our eyes fixed more towards New Orleans and Carolina as the Saints were pulling off the upset over the Panthers, which was good news for us because it gives you a freebie over this stretch. And every NFL team has a stretch of 3 out of 4, 2 out of 3, or in the Bucs case, 3 in a row where you go, and I'll take 1 and 2 right now, or 1 and 3 if you just sign me up for that, because we'll get fat on this other part of the schedule. Because the Bucs obviously are dealing with a roadie at Buffalo this weekend, and then they got to go to the West Coast and play the Rams at 8:20 p.m. on Sunday Night Football the following weekend. Matthew Stafford looks like he's 27 years old again, so that's problematic. But then for the Bucs after that, it's the Cardinals and the Saints and the Falcons and the Panthers and the Dolphins and the Panthers, and that's the rest of the season. So you get to 6 wins. If you give me a split over these next 2, and you're telling me they got 7 wins going into that stretch of 6 games, in which it'll be hard to go 3-3. You probably should go 4-2 or 5-1. Easily. Everything's okay, which is why that Saints win on Sunday was very, very important. And it's also why that Indianapolis Colts win over the Falcons, despite the Colts giving Atlanta 17 opportunities to win that football game, was also critical. So the Bucs are not screwed or on the danger alert in the way that I agree with you. The Packers need to be looking long and hard at that remainder of the schedule, because if you buy that the Bears are a pretty good team, they got to play.
That means you only split with them because you got them 2 more times.
That's right. And then you got to play Denver, and I think they play Baltimore. That. Yeah, it is not the easiest stretch. In fact, one could go so far as to say for Green Bay that their game against the New York Giants this weekend is a must-win game.
Yes, it is. I did look that up. I went and looked it up, and it's because of the schedule that you just laid out. They've got – listen, if they lose to the Giants, they're not going to go to the playoffs. If they lose to the Giants, they're not going to finish with a winning record. So we're going to start having very different conversations about the Packers real soon if that happens. Now, I don't think they're going to lose to the Giants. Jackson Dart suffered a concussion. If he doesn't play, they're sure as hell not going to lose to the Giants. If he does, then you're in danger because, he does run around and make plays all the time.
Unless the Giants want to do it and they want to cut Jameis loose, because then at that point, Green Bay, you're either going to win by 30 or you're going to lose by 24 because Jameis is feast or famine, but they'll probably play Russ instead and you'll win.
There's no way I'd play Russ. I just don't know. I guess. I mean, you benched him in favor of a rookie. A guy who's never played in the league, and I don't know. Anyhow, I wouldn't do it. But I guess the argument is the same for either backup quarterback. So I don't know. I have a fondness for Jameis, who, by the way, has had these moments when he's asked to fill in where you are reminded of that ability. You are reminded of, oh, that's right, he's got arm talent for days and is not afraid. And that not afraid thing can really benefit and really hurt. Because when he's not afraid and he guesses right or takes the right risks, I should say, it's not a guess. He knows what he's looking at. When he takes the right risks and fits it in there, it takes your breath away. Mm-hmm. Other times he takes those risks and you go, why? No, Jameis, why? Jameis, no. Jameis, why? You do it over and over again with him. It is a marvelous roller coaster. I do want to see it. I want to see it again.
Just looking at the schedule for this upcoming weekend, and the Bucs are in the 1:00 window on their home for the NFL. CB freaking S, always CBS. The Jags play at 1:00 against the Chargers. I'm going to have to go to the place that shall not be distributed publicly because it's our spot for my new favorite blackened chicken sandwich in town. I'm going to have to go back out there as long as Mike doesn't get fired and eats up the Sunday. I'm going to be right back there watching the multi-view.
I may join you, but I will tell you, Tom, that's an interesting subject. They could lose to Virginia Tech. I don't think they will, but they could.
It's a very simple thing. Is Virginia Tech better than, say, Stanford?
Oh, well, everybody is. But that game was clear across the country at 10:30 at night. This is home locally. I would be surprised if they lost. But again, when your seasons fall into pieces and you have the kind of communication and discussion that we're currently having on a daily basis about the program, Florida State's being speculated about locally and nationally in a way that requires Mike to frequently have these kinds of availabilities in which he has to explain thoroughly the hows and whys of this sorry record over the last 2 years. And I can't imagine the stress that puts on an individual who is constantly fighting for his job. It doesn't mean good things for the other aspects of your program. It can't. And then, we get the news that, Ricky Knight has been suspended now for a burglary. And you're just kind of like, what in the world? He played as recently as the Wake Forest game. So you look at that. I'm not saying that's Mike's fault, but it's another thing that happens where a player is suspended. I told you yesterday on the air that I'm already hearing that certain players have certainly received calls from other teams about their intentions, whether that's to stay here or to go elsewhere. We would be naive to think that that's not happening in the midst of this season. So now you've got this internal struggle to try to keep everybody together while you're losing games and you're being asked about your job status. A player has been suspended. You've got assistant coaches who probably are wondering about what their situation looks like going into next year, especially if you're Tony White or one of these younger guys who's looking to be a head coach or looking to make sure they have job security. When your head coach doesn't have job security, you don't have job security. And I know from the past that talking with coaches and talking with people around football programs, people in football operations, people that have experienced what it's like to have a head coach under siege, they often speak about how fracturing it is because, again, I'm an assistant for you. You're the head coach. You're under fire. You're the guy who hired me. You're the guy who brought me in. You're the guy who handed over the keys. I'm looking at you every day. You're looking forlorn, stressed. You're looking broken. I may have whatever personal feelings. We may be dear friends, but I got to know that I have a job. I got to know what's going to happen. Where am I going? And all of a sudden I'm being reached out to, by other programs and other coaches like, hey, I know your situation there with Tom isn't so good. If you need a life raft, if you need a landing spot, I need an OC. I need a DC. I need a receivers coach. I need an offensive line coach next year because my guy's moving on to take this, whatever it is. So you can see how you begin to create a dysfunctional set of circumstances when the losses begin to mount like this. And, none of it, that's not insidious. It's not some sort of nefariousness behind the scenes. This is a business. Everything is, right? And you're looking to make sure that you have job security. And there's no way that a single coach on this staff feels like they're on solid ground right now when the head coach himself is certainly not on solid ground right now, partly for the reasons that you pointed out. It's not just the obviousness of the losses that have mounted and the reasons that we can all see with our own eyes every Saturday when they lose another game, especially if it's on the road or it's played in the ACC. It's that the university didn't come out and say, no matter what happens, Mike Norvell will be here next year. That would quell most of all of that noise that I'm talking about if they did that. That's why schools sometimes do it, like they did at a couple different places so far this year where they've said, hey, the head coach is coming back. They did it in Wisconsin recently. And they said those fans were chanting that they wanted Fickell gone. The university thought that was an untenable situation. They looked at Fickell as a guy that deserved another year. By the way, Wisconsin just beat Washington and had something like 40 yards passing in that game, which is an unforgivable loss for Washington. Anyhow, that said, Wisconsin won that game, and they came out and said, look, Fickell's staying. He's going to be here next year. You all can chill out with all that chanting because he ain't going anywhere. He'll be here next year. Well, that provides stability in the locker room, provides stability within the coaching staff. There's no chance that the Florida State University officials are going to come out at this time and say, hey, Mike Norvell's coming back next year. They can't because they know that there are more losses coming. There just are. So, it's one of those things where you're sub 500. You'd be silly to say it on the heels of 2-10. I think this kind of brokenness that is permeating throughout the program and that you feel as a fan and that we talk about as sports radio hosts and folks that work in the field and cover the team, and that, I'm sure the players feel that's not going to change anytime soon. So you just have dysfunction everywhere.
Yeah, I would just say one correction there. It's not losses. They're transitional elements. We need to be very clear on the terminology. These are transitional elements. It's that stuckness. And in a weird way, because that you made that statement earlier, you can't bring them back after these losses. I almost feel like if they wanted to and they said, we vetted our options, we conducted this comprehensive assessment, and I think keeping Mike is the right idea. Well, because you issued that statement and you set an expectation that there is going to be accountability for what comes between the statement and the end of the year, you kind of can't bring him back. Or at least it would not be a good look if you decided to after playing the limbo game, because at that point you would have cost yourself 5, 6, 7 recruits that decommitted, went elsewhere because there was not a clear message for the future. I mean, I think if that statement had said, we don't care how bad, in flowery terms, we don't care how bad it gets between now and December 1st, this is the guy for 2026, I doubt you lose at least 2 of the kids that you lost out of the 3 last week. You probably keep them because then they can rightfully look in that player's eye and say, the rev share number is solid. Your place within my program is solid. The position we've told you about is exactly what we're going to train you up to do. Your expectations will be met. Best of all for you, your bank account's going to cash the exact number that we promised you, and I'll throw in an extra 10% because of all the troubles we've had on the field. Like you probably could retain, but at this point, it feels like because they decided to set the agenda for the end of the year that you can't possibly send out a second statement that says, well, we were conducting the comprehensive assessment, and in light of what has happened since, such as the Clemson game, we decided that the threshold's been met. Let's bring them on back for next year. You can't do that.
Yeah, I mean,
not if you want to be perceived as serious by the people who spend money with you.
I don't know that anybody takes Florida State very serious right now. I mean, I would think, and that's the hard part, is that you want to be perceived as serious. You want to be perceived as a team of significance, of importance, but you're relegated currently to the bottom of the ACC standings for the second year in a row. The only team below you is Boston College, and obviously that's not going to get it done. Florida State has lost 4 of their last 5 games, or 5 of their last 6 games. That'll hurt your feelings. I mean, I say that out loud again. They've lost 5 of their last 6 games. Their lone win is a game against Wake Forest, whose quarterback play is not good. Virginia Tech, I said earlier, I think they'll beat Virginia Tech, who's lost 3 of 4. But Virginia Tech has been game in some of these, where that is to say, first of all, they have a better record than Florida State in the ACC. Secondly, they've hung in there against Georgia Tech, against Louisville. So maybe I shouldn't assume that Florida State will win this game. Virginia Tech will come in here with a pulse, I guess.
I would agree. It's not a pushover, but it could happen. The Wake Forest game happened, so it's this league. It's possible. But
I'm sorry. I know that was open ended. The reason I say it is, I mean, we are done here if he loses to Virginia Tech.
Right? I can't do it. I can't do it.
Come on.
There's nothing worse than Stanford, and it wasn't enough. There's nothing worse than Stanford, and it wasn't enough. And here's the thing. Based on Ira's column yesterday, in which the 5 misconceptions, well, they weren't not ready to do it. That, in a way, that's offensive even more to me. So you were ready. Your ducks were in a row. You were having conversations in case things went bad or went really good and other guys got hired elsewhere. So you have all these backup conversations. You are prepared in case of emergency or in case of first world problems. You've got names ready to go. Stanford happens on the heels of Pitt, and you don't act? After I slept on that, I said, really? So you're trying to tell me that y'all were ready and Stanford wasn't enough? I don't know that Virginia Tech's going to be enough.
I'm sure the retort is that a lot of things changed about the landscape of the hiring, and that, maybe you had 7, 8 guys that you really felt good about, or that you wanted to vet, but now there are 20 jobs open and those guys are being vetted by those other programs as well. And that agent holds the cards to all of it if you're going to dance with the devil.
Yeah. I guess they're deciding that we are going to take a different path because everybody else who wants to hire a coach has let the world know by issuing a pink slip. But let's operate in this different space. If you were prepared for it, Stanford should have been enough. I think we can all, outside of somebody who works in that building, we can all agree that Stanford was enough. I mean, for God's sake.
I do wonder, again, the only thing that will salvage this whole look and all of this is if you come out the other side smelling like a rose, which is that you hire somebody that everybody feels pretty damn good about, and you have your ducks in a row, and you make an announcement in one fell swoop, and you say, Mike has been dismissed. We are going to turn the reins over to James Franklin. He and his staff are prepared to take the position at this time. Yep. And this is what it's going to look like as far as how the football operations works. And this is what we've made a comprehensive review, as we said we were going to do. And this is what we're going to do. And if you lay it bare at that point, you go, okay, so they were trying to set this up all along, and this was the price of doing business.
Yeah, it feels like a zero-sum game at that point with how they've played the hand of poker. Like you better have the cards because if it's all right, there is going to be a general manager named at a later date, and Alex Golesh is going to be your next head coach. But you did all this for that. Not that Golesh couldn't succeed here. I'm open to that discussion. He could very well succeed here. But you're going to go through all this and not fire him after Stanford for that being the payoff? I don't think you had a full house, sir. I think you had 9 high, and you played this thing all the way to the end.
I just wonder, the one thing I'll give him is that I do think if you're hunting for a coach who's got a team in contention to make the playoff, it's probably difficult because how much in the way of negotiating can you do? I understand an agent can work behind the scenes, and that's exactly what you would assume they're doing. But that coach is going to be very careful about what comes out and how it comes out. And that it's just, it puts you in a bit of a bind.
Sure.
It's interesting. If you noticed, we're not hearing anything about any of these jobs. Like, even the ones in which people have been fired. You're not hearing names. You're not hearing any real movement at Penn State or even Florida. Like, Florida loves to have you believe that they've got Lane Kiffin in the fold. Man, it doesn't. I don't know that that's true. It doesn't look like it to me.
Well, the fact that Ole Miss keeps winning keeps that narrative alive because he does have important games. And that's where I just wonder about the ramifications to move the discussion forward for the early signing period. I asked Michael Langston this question last week in a video we put on the channel. Do you think a lot of these kids might take it to just January enrollment or to the traditional February signing day? Because what if these vacancies aren't filled by the Wednesday after rivalry week because a lot of these institutions are waiting on their coach? Like, they could be putting pressure on those coaches that are in the playoff to announce before they go into their playoff game.
They're not going to do that.
They're taking the next job. So you really could be operating in limbo into January. The whole thing to me is, if that's where Florida State is, and let's say it's Summerall, and they're waiting on Summerall, and the fact that he beats Memphis last week keeps that thing alive because he's got a shot at the playoff, and let's say he gets in the playoff, are you going to pull off that devious thing that I was talking about a few weeks ago in which you won't fire Michael till after the early signing period is over? Like, what is the play there? Are you trying to get those kids to commit here? Now they're locked in with you, and they can't decommit or enter a transfer portal until 5 days after you announce the next guy. It's going to be really weird between that Saturday after Thanksgiving and probably Tuesday night, midnight. You want to have an answer so you could get some kids to sign early. You have to.
Yeah, you're operating from the assumption that they feel that is as important as the actual hire. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I think they've already, it's a sunk cost that you're losing your recruiting class.
See, this is where I would say, if that's true, then why not just have fired him? What about keeping him benefit? Like, it's the same difference. And you might just give your collective and your people behind the scenes a chance to communicate more honestly with kids that maybe want to stick around either on the current roster or the class. But if you're trying to keep that recruiting class together and have your cake and eat it too, that's why you wouldn't fire Mike. That's what I'm thinking.
It's curious to me. I don't know the way that agents talk to their clients about this sort of thing because it's a dawn of a new age. And I do know that there is a school of thought that we from the outside assume that where there's chaos, there is going to be movement. So if you're a player that has verbally committed to Florida State currently, and you want to go to Florida State and they've committed a certain amount of money to you, and then the rumors begin with the coaches, that means like hey, that kind of uncertainty is no good for us, baby. We're moving to somewhere that's much more stabilized. Whereas I've been told by an agent and agents before that in the new age of doing things, like let's say you're a guy on the roster, you're already here, you're not playing much, but you got your money this year because they believe in you long term, and now you see all this dysfunction around you, and you say, I maybe want to leave. The agent would tell the player, hold on, we've got our money. You're in good standing. Do you like it there? Let's see who they hire. They're not going to pull your money. Let's find out who they hire. It may end up being a good thing for us. Maybe a more stable situation for you, depending on the hire. We've already got our money. You don't have to leave.
This would be also the mutual benefit of the rule that you cannot enter the portal until 5 days after the new coach is announced.
Yeah.
It does afford you that time. There's no pressure on you as the player to immediately enter the portal when your guy is fired.
Right.
So you have more information for your next decision as well. But yeah, that's where, going back to yesterday's discussion, I just hope that we have somebody who communicates that your money's fine, that agreement will hold no matter who the coach is. You have an assured place here. I'm sure that basic sentiment is assumed, but I don't like assumptions in a moment like this if it costs you the Desirs, and they would have stayed had you just made a phone call. That's what the kind of little thing that falls through the cracks that makes me a little bit nervous, because I don't know that I trust our track record about things falling through the cracks.
Oh, right now, none of us trust anything that's happening within the football program. This is obviously a run that is unprecedented in the modern era of Florida State football. And you go way back to when Bobby first got here and all of that, and we know some of the seasons from way back. The old timers will remind us of that, and there's no problem with that. I mean, I get it. You lived through it. You saw it. And so you're probably a little bit more able to digest this kind of dysfunction. But it's been so long since Florida State was that. Now, we've been up and down, and we've been terribly inconsistent in a lot of things. But this kind of dysfunction, 2-10, followed up by being sub 500 currently, we haven't seen this. And so this – nobody trusts anything that's going on. Everybody's going to be walking on eggshells. Everybody's going to be looking with a jaundiced eye towards Florida State football, Florida State's athletic director, Florida State's athletic department, Florida State's head coach, Florida State's coaching staff, its players. I mean, nobody trusts anything right now. And that's not going to go away until you get a shot in the arm of stability, which is the announcement that they are or are not moving on from Mike Norvell. And this is the answer to the question of who's coming next. Chef Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Hey, most of us like to stay in shape. We are attempting through our workouts to address our physical health. The same thing is true with the other elements of total health, and that is mental health, right? You need to be able to go somewhere and or see somebody if need be in order to have real balance with your overall health plan. And that's where our friends at Rula come in. Rula connects you to over 15,000 licensed therapists and psychiatrists nationwide. And they can cut out the guesswork by matching you with somebody based on your needs and your preferences and your stated requirements. It's therapy that doesn't break the bank. Rula works with most major insurance plans. Sessions can cost as little as just $15 and in some cases even $0 depending on your benefits. Full support from start to finish. Rula isn't just a directory. They help you book appointments. They stay on top of your schedule. They keep track of your progress so you actually get somewhere with that therapy. It's everything in one place, whether it's therapy or medication management. Rula makes it simple to get the full scope of care that you're looking for. No time wasted navigating between platforms or offices. Thousands of guys have already used Rula to finally get the care that they need. It's not just physical health, it's mental health. It's marrying the two. Don't keep putting it off. Go to Rula.com/Cameron and get started today. That's RULA.com/Cameron. Take the first step. Get connected and take control of your mental health. You know, I don't know if it bothers Florida State fans more as the days go on to be part of the national discussion or if they want more of it. And we are, you and I, Florida State fans, obviously connected to that university and the love of it. But we work in this business, so I don't ever really know the way certain things are perceived from media by your everyday fan driving around South St. Pete on their way to work who graduated from Florida State, and they hear, on Sirius XM, a show in which it's being talked about, or they come home from work and they want to catch up on the Florida State news of the day and they turn on our podcast or our video at Warchant TV, or they tune in to Josh Pate, a national guy who's talked a lot about Florida State lately. I just saw that a bunch of people have emailed me, hey, what do you think about this guy and what he had to say? I like Pate just fine. I don't have anything against him. I don't listen to a lot of other shows because I find that's the quickest way to have your own show influenced unduly without you even realizing it. So once I got into this business, I didn't listen to a lot of other people's shows. I'll hear things from time to time. Obviously, all of us connected on the beat know what the others have to say. You'll find out eventually, hey, did you see what Chris Nee wrote? Did you see what Jeff Cameron said? Did you hear, all that stuff? It happens. But I don't know if that incessantly being in play, being the case, is more aggravating because you don't like being the subject of what could be perceived as dysfunction or ridicule. I would only assure everybody, don't worry about it. LSU's got you covered. Nobody looks sillier at this point in time than LSU, who now it is revealed tried to go to Brian Kelly and ask him for a $54 million lump sum to be broken up, only to then have it be turned down and him turn around, counter, and sue, perhaps.
Yeah, he's $54 million owed. They wanted to give him 25 lump straight up, you're done. And then they wanted to give him 30 or 35, and he said no to both. but his agency, his representation, said that he would be willing to do, if they give him a note, I think last night was the deadline, if they present the attorney with a note that they will pay the 54 in full, that he would still negotiate at that point. I think we discussed this yesterday, where I would imagine a financial advisor would say, well, look, if they give you 45 in a lump, by the time that they paid it out in 2031, we can actually make that more valuable to you at that point. But Brian Kelly is a spiteful dude, on top of the fact that he was just fired from a job. So I would imagine in that circumstance, he wants to make you suffer as much as possible if you're LSU. And so he doesn't have any incentive. Moreover, the contract is clear and it's legally binding. So he doesn't have to say yes to anything. If he doesn't want to, he could just get his $800,000 or $900,000 monthly check for the next 5 or 6 years, and that's that.
That's the point. I don't believe, I mean, it sounds like, the more I read this morning, that he's kind of laughing at them. Like, oh, yeah, no, it just occurs to you that $54 million is a lot? Yeah, no, I don't owe you anything. I don't have to do anything. Their counter that, hey, we never actually fired you. You walked away from us. We're not so sure we owe you any money, is laughable, given the fact that their own governor has been on TV telling everybody about the impending firing. It's just, it's hilarious.
I didn't see that part. So they're saying you weren't fired, you quit? Oh.
They are arguing that he walked away from them, that they never actually fired him, and that they have a for-cause reason not to have to pay him.
Okay, good
to
luck.
which he laughed aloud.
Yeah, good luck on that one. And you know what? If I was him, I'd say, I welcome this legal fight. Absolutely. And I'm going to make sure that I countersue for any damages that you bring to my reputation. I'm going to countersue for all legal fees. You want to pay my lawyers to let me have some fun at your expense, literally? Then let's do this thing. If I were him, that's exactly what I would do.
The legal filing by Kelly and his attorneys say that LSU has taken the position that it has not formally terminated Kelly. The school, according to the petition for declaration judgment, is now seeking to fire Kelly for cause and potentially voiding the $54 million owed him. That's happened. Kelly has filed, through his attorneys, suit against LSU, saying that they are seeking not to give him his $54 million. By the way, games have been played with interim coaches already.
Unless they had the goods on him and they said, do you really want to do this? Because we'll find a way to allow this particular fact to come to light, Brian. Short of that, you're just wasting your own time and you're wasting your own money if you're LSU.
That's why I say, hey, if you're worried about FSU right now, Florida State is getting grief just for not acting. And really, more than any of that, they're getting grief because they've been bad and they wonder why they're allowed to stay bad with the same guy operating at the helm of all the badness. That's really the extent to which Florida State is being scrutinized by the national media, which is warranted, of course, but that's hardly the same sort of buffoonery that you witness at Auburn or LSU.
Well, this is a case, too, where I think the carrot that they were dangling on top of the lump sum to Brian Kelly was that they would eliminate the language about the duty to mitigate. So therefore, if Kelly just wanted to retire or he wanted to do television, whatever monies or go back into coaching, whatever monies he got wouldn't offset a thing. It's just that's your own money to keep. And I'd understand that if somebody at Brian Kelly's age is like, you know what, maybe I'd be a coordinator or something at the next level if they'll take me. But I've done enough in the game, and I just want to hang them up. So because I don't have any duty to mitigate language, I could just retire and take all this money. Like that would be at least a plausible offer or reason for the offer from LSU. But in the case of Florida State, the buyout amount is quite similar. And it looks like the structure of it is pretty similar because it's broken out into monthly payments, which is what Mike Norvell's situation would be. There would be no benefit to wiping away the duty to mitigate because Mike wants to keep working. Mike has decades left in this profession if he can find a home for decades.
Let's take a quick pivot on that subject, Tom, shall we? Because I always find this very interesting. And I do believe you and I are dear friends. We know each other very well. We're also great work partners, I like to believe. Over the years, we've agreed and disagreed about certain things in sports or players or coaches or teams, whatever it might be. But I think we are 100% on the same page when it comes to this very subject, which is if somebody were to approach either one of us tomorrow and say, I'd like to give you, we don't need 50 million. Let's just say $1 million, $2 million to no longer work. Not only would we say, I'll take that offer. I'd like that $2 million to not work anymore. We would also then say, oh, I don't also feel any need to ever work again. I don't plan to. You'll find me on the golf course or on a boat or on an island or at a sporting event in Europe or whatever it is I feel like doing because I'm not a dummy. I won't then waste the $2 million. I will make money off the $2 million that you just gave me, and I will live a modest life and things will go swimmingly. But these guys who get offered 20 and 30 million dollars and then they have this duty to mitigate in that they got to go out and get another job. No, I'm not getting another job. I'll go ahead and take my money and peace. That's it. You'll never see me again.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Especially if you're allowed to pick up an odd job, not in the category in which you currently work, sure, something to just kill the time. I'm not saying that you need to be a media consultant. I'm saying like I get to go work at the cart barn at a really cool course. Yeah, that is my goal in life, is to return to where I started. My first job that I loved was a cart barn guy. I want to be the 70-year-old cart barn guy or starter that's out there and just like, yeah, they give me 3 shifts a week and I get to play as much as I want.
Yes,
that's who I want to be.
I too want to do that somewhere near St. Augustine. I'll just go be on a course somewhere, shake hands with guys. I won't even be that ball busting starter. I'll be the guy who's pretty cool that comes up. Like you get the 2 different types of starters.
Yes.
The ball busting, you're 1 minute late. Is this your group? What's your name? Like the ridiculous over the top guy that thinks he's actually some form of security, old man. Those are the worst. I love the guy that's like, got a beer? Let's go. Let's see it, boys.
Yeah.
Get after it. Have a great time.
Yeah, that's the starter who says, look, you're not supposed to bring coolers in. Do me a favor and give the cart girl a tip, would you? She's working very hard. Just get a water, get a soda.
Correct.
And will you tuck that cooler away?
Yeah.
I know. We charge $9 a beer. I got it.
No, yeah. Right. That's what I would be. That would be me. I would be that guy that's just like, now look at there. Henry, I see you over there. I know you got what you got in the bag there. And listen, it is what it is. It's okay. I understand what we're doing all here. Your boy's been out here for an hour if you want to pour me a shot. Also, by the way, hit him straight and have fun, boys. Just make sure you tip that cart girl. Have a good day, guys. Good to see you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's now we're rolling Big River.
Yeah. I would take the money. I would need more than one, certainly, because I've got a few more years to eat up.
Listen, everybody's got a figure is my point. It could be $1 million, it could be $2 million, it could be $3 million, it could be 500,000, depending on what age you are. But yes.
I think 3 sounds good. I mean, or 2.5. You know what? I'll give you. Somebody's out there and they want to experiment with this. $2.5 million. You have me. I'm done. I'm out. And I would find a way to make that work, and I think I could make that work. Absolutely so.
Just every time I'm reading these stories, it's like, well, he'll get 52 million or he'll get 38 million. I'm like, why would you care to work again, man? Call it a day. Chef Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Introducing Harry's Plus. Oh, I've told you about Harry's razors before. Here's a little bit of the shaving cream they sent me. Thank you. Sent due to Beeper. Also, Harry's got the travel pack razor. I got the Harry's in the back bathroom. I got the Harry's for my kids. What are we talking about? Well, they're high school kids. One of them's a senior. He needed a good razor. Harry spent 10 years developing their most advanced razor yet, an entire decade of R&D for the smoothest possible shave. And I can attest to that because I shave every morning with Harry's. And you won't find a better blade. And I've tried all of them. Refined blade technology. I could tell you about that. I could talk to you about the quality, the barbershop quality shave. Feels like almost like a straight razor. It's unbelievable. And their razors still cost less than Gillette Fusion, which is crazy. So you get this premium shave without this exorbitant price. Risk-free trial right now. If you don't love your shave, Harry's will make it right. No questions asked. Here's what you do, guys. For a limited time, Our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/warchant. Get you a Harry's razor. The set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, one refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shaving gel. Got that too. Yeah. And travel cover to protect your blades when you go on the road. Just head to harrys.com/warchant to claim this offer. And after you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support this show, the Jeff Cameron Show. Support Warchant. Tell them that we sent you. That's right, harrys.com/warchant. This is the first time that we've ever been involved. And really, I would tell you this is the first time in all my years of covering college football, watching college football, being passionate about college football, caring deeply about Florida State, you name it. This is the first time I've ever felt a level of indifference towards who the next coach is. It's never happened before. I've always had a very distinct opinion about a candidate or two that I felt were much, much better candidates than these other 10 or 5 or however many are out there being rumored at the time. And I usually, by the way, not only have that opinion about the guy that I want in here next at Florida State, and that's an impassioned opinion, I have an opinion about who they should hire, who Florida should hire, who Miami should hire, who LSU, who Penn State, you name the program. I have always, as an impassioned college football fan, had a very distinct opinion about that job, that place, this fan base, and this coordinator. And it's the first time, and I do believe, again, because of the era, because of things that have changed radically in the sport, that you cannot have as definitive a yes or no on a candidate as you used to have. If it was under the old set of circumstances that ruled college football, you had a way of judging and juxtaposing that standard across all jobs for these candidates. You cannot do that anymore, Tom. And for that reason, it does leave one in limbo. I don't love not having a huge over-the-top, we must hire this guy if we're going to make it opinion about the next coach. I don't have it.
Yeah, I think the two coaching hires that would bring juice to the discussion, I don't mean necessarily juice as in positive results, but juice to the discussion for Florida State would be James Franklin and Jimbo. Like those would be the two guys that would move the needle in some way that sees people take hardline stances. There are many other potential hires that people would say, who? Or they'd have to go do some research and figure it out. For me, it's funny. We had this conversation last night on the Smash, and I said, I'm more interested in the economics of the hire than I am the name itself, because what I'm looking for here is for Florida State to set a price point for its next head coach that doesn't see this next move as do or die until 2032 or 2033. Like, please don't put us in that position. If it's Franklin, and let's say that Franklin comes in, they say it's a 6-year deal at $9.5 million a year, I'm going to go, oh my God, there is no safety net. And this Walenda is on the line, and they're kind of bobbing back and forth, and they're about to fall to their death. This better hit, or else we're going to be in real big trouble for a really long time.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what it is. If they do that, if they hire Franklin, and we're just making this up as we go along, guys, there's no rumor out there that they're hiring Franklin. Just want to make that clear. If they hire Franklin for the deal that Tom just laid out, 6 years, $9.5 million, he's going to be here for 6 years. That's all there is to it. There's no, like, he goes 0-12, he's here the next year.
Right.
I mean, that's it. They have locked it in. That's the way that's going to be.
Well, and that's the secondary question is, so there are going to be 3 questions. Who's the guy? How much you paying him? And what's the buyout? I think that's what every fan is going to ask now, and that's where we've been conditioned. Yeah. And I think that's going to be the same thing at LSU. That'll be the same thing at Florida. It's where I want to be on signing day, which is, all right, great, the kid signed. How many years is he locked in for when we have collective bargaining? Like, that is going to be more important necessarily, I think, than the signature. Because you bring in a kid as a freshman, is he going to be here in a year or two? So that's the thing here is what's the number that we're bringing in the next guy, because we cannot hamstring ourselves with and this is where you're thinking doom and gloom. I have to think at the worst case scenario, because we're going to be paying Mike for another 5-6 years.
Yeah, the weirdest thing to me is, Tom, Because I don't have a sense that there is a slam dunk that is going to rectify a broken situation and get us back on track to championship level football, then I don't see the need to do that. I don't see the need to lock yourself into some crazy 6'9" with a massive body. I don't see that. I think you could negotiate for a very good coordinator right now at $2 million per. $2 million, 3-year deal. And if we have to move on after 2.5 because you're an unmitigated disaster, then so be it.
Right.
I want that wiggle room.
Yeah, wild incentives, investing options, and all that kind of stuff. Where when you win 10 games, you auto trigger a 2-year extension for the guy. Things like that.
I'd go easy on extensions. I'd go. We automatically trigger a $2 million raise.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll give you the raise for the performance. We're not extending years. We've learned a little something from that.
Yeah, the volatility being what it is, that's totally fair. But this is where the hope is that whatever we're negotiating, that's the way it goes. I think your best hope though for a splash and a successful splash is James Franklin. I mean, we've had this discussion, not talking about him and directly talking about him, but all signs point to James Franklin if you're looking for something that checks the PR box, as well as gives you the highest percentage chance of, at minimum, getting back to 9-10 wins with consistency. I think that's the guy, but it better be at $5 or $6 mil if he's going to actually be the hire.
There is no universally wrap your arm around hire, though. I will say that. I agree with you. I'm fine with Franklin. A lot of people aren't. I'm fine with it. But my point would be there's not going to be a single hire that we make, unless it's Nick Saban, where people go, yes, we did it. Nope, there isn't one. There isn't one. Not even Lane.
You know what? If it was Saban, I would join Kirk Herbstreit as the two adults who jump around like children at the sight of Nick Saban. I'd be, woo, I'd hit the arm just like he did in the press box.
You and me both. We'll do it on the air together, buddy. The day we get to go on the air and make that announcement that Nick Saban is the next coach at Florida State, we're going to go, woo!
We'll call it the Herbie Hop.
The problem is it's not going to be Nick Saban, and this pipe dream is the same as trying to win the lottery.
Did you happen to see him share the video of his reaction to the catch in the Indiana game?
Yes.
A little more subdued.
Yeah, much more subdued, I might add.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
I didn't think it was incredible at all, and that was the greatest catch I've ever seen. It still blows me away. Good work out of you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Once again, happy Veterans Day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow on a Balls McWednesday. Go Noles.